Good morning, everyone. I'm Gana Stegmann in Germany. I would like to say good morning because here still morning in Germany. And I believe in Indonesia is already PM, 4 p.m. So you're already in the afternoon. And for Greg, this is very early in the morning, around 2 o'clock. So thank you for coming. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera untuk semuanya. Dan terima kasih sudah bergabung di acara Zoom Komunitas Traveler Kompasiana yang diadakan setiap hari Sabtu. Dan kali ini sudah ada beberapa mahasiswa dari Kudus, mereka yang belajar tentang jurnalistik dan perfilman, termasuk traveler yang ada di Komunitas Traveler Kompasiana atau di Koteka. Kali ini kita akan menghadirkan seorang narasumber yang sudah tidak asing lagi karena sudah melakukan kerjasama dengan kita tahun lalu, tepatnya tanggal 12 Desember tahun 2020. Waktu itu dia banyak bercerita tentang Wonderful Indonesia, perjalanannya di Jawa dan Bali. Dan kali ini kami juga akan featuring sutradara muda kita, Andra Fembrianto, yang didampingi oleh istrinya Grace, yang akan membagikan film terbarunya, klip film terbarunya, yang ini akan menarik sekali karena waktu saya lihat, oh ini kayaknya lucu banget gitu ya, dan memang patut kita dukung dan menjadi sebuah kebanggaan dari bangsa Indonesia. Dan terima kasih yang sudah hadir di sini. Saya masih menunggu apakah yang dari Kudus, Ibu Sunarni selaku dosen dari mahasiswa yang hadir di sini sudah ada, karena mungkin akan sambutan sebelum Andra berbagi tentang informasi film terbarunya. Okay, because I planned that the lecture from Kudus University would like to say something before we start the Zoom, but I think she's not yet there. Maybe later. Okay, now I would like to give the time to Andra because he would like to share about his new film, and today we will see the short clip from the Cipak-Cipuk. Before, maybe you can tell a little bit about it, Andra.
Hello semuanya.
How is it? Hello.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Mau aku terjemahin nggak? Kamu ngomong.
Yes, my car.
Yes, I hope everyone is keeping healthy and keeping safe. I'm Andra, and this is.
I'm Grace.
And this year, we worked together in making a short film called Cipak-Cipuk.
It's called Galio Anak Segara, your shirt.
Yes, it's based on a novel.
Keren. So proud of you.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Miss Gana, for inviting us to share about our story.
Okay.
Wow. This is the novel that we did, and then we made a short film called Cipak-Cipuk that we want to show the short clip today. I want to ask, do you guys want to see the whole film or just the short clip?
Untuk yang the long one, how long is it?
It's 9 minutes.
9 minutes is okay. But before, we need to tell everyone not to make recording from this, because you said it's prohibited or you're not allowed.
Because the film is recently just done, and we're trying to send it to festivals, so we can't have anyone like taking pictures of it and screen recording it, because it might make the film disqualified in the festivals. Yeah, thank you so much. This is a great pleasure for us, because this will be our first time showing the film to other people. Yeah.
Amazing.
So without further ado, we'd like to show you the film. If Miss Gana can give us the host, we'll share the screen now. Oh, so before the film begins, I just want to talk a little bit about it. It's a fantasy story that's inspired by the many maritime cultures in Indonesia. So it's totally fictional, but we hope when you see it, it makes you feel like this is truly from Indonesia.
It's raining over here. Sorry.
Sorry for the technical troubles.
I miss the rain, Indonesian rain. I miss it very much.
It's raining hard,
but warm. Wow, bravo. So proud. Amazing.
Thank you for
Well
watching.
done. Iya, kayak Pocahontas ada yang
Very
bilang
cool.
kayak Pocahontas gitu. Aduh, keren banget. Wonderful Indonesia, really. Terus kayaknya bahasanya aksennya agak-agak Flores gitu ya, atau apa nih?
Kupang.
Kupang
Itu
ya?
yang mengisi suara itu mereka dari komunitas film.
English?
Oh, sorry. Okay. So the people who are, the voice actors for this film, they're from Kupang, and they were scouted by Komunitas Film Kupang, which is a film, they're a production house based in Kupang, West Timor.
Ah, great. Is it also from Kupang, your clothes?
No, this one is, the motif is based on an old family heirloom that was woven by my great-grandmother in the 1950s. This is not it. This is a study that I did in order to preserve my great-grandmother's, part of my great-grandmother's heirloom motif. But because nobody in my family, by the way, my heritage is Rotterdamese. We are indigenous to the southernmost island in Indonesia. It's just southwest of Timor, Rote Island. But nobody in my family weaves anymore. We live, we're migrating in Java and other parts of the world. So I asked for the help of weavers in Sika. They did a crash course. It's called the Watubo, the Watubo Collective. They're a collective based near Maumere in Flores, and they opened this crash course for doing vegetable-based dyes. And so I came and I said, let's do something that my grandmother did. And so this is their version, their interpretation of what my great-grandmother did.
Wow, keren. Wow, thank you. Thank you for the
Very
clip.
cool.
And good luck for the festival anyway.
Thank you. Thank you.
Ah, dan untuk
Thanks for sharing.
karya-karya berikutnya. Ya bagus ya. Greg, what do you think? Do you want to say
I
something
like it.
before we go to your presentation?
I thought it was awesome, actually.
Oh, thank
I
you
think
so
it's
much,
really
Greg.
cool because whenever I go to Indonesia, I try to get to know the culture each time. So you just opened up a whole new thing I didn't know about. But the storytelling I understood the whole thing, and I thought it was kind of touching at the end. So you did a really good job.
We appreciate it.
We
Very well
appreciate
done.
it.
And
Thank
also,
you so much.
I know it means a lot to you. So it's hard to share that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It takes courage to share things that are really personal to you. So congratulations, and I hope you do well.
Oh, thank you so much, Greg. And thank you
No
for
problem.
everyone.
Thanks for sharing.
I hope both of you can meet when Greg would like to go to Indonesia one day. Right, Greg?
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
for sure.
yes.
Why not?
Yes,
Yeah, I'll
please
be coming
contact us.
He is
soon.
planning
Yeah,
to go.
Where are you? What area?
Jakarta.
Okay, yeah, just DM
outside
me.
Jakarta.
Just hit me on Instagram or something, and then we can arrange
Oh,
it.
sure.
Will do.
Sounds
Will
good.
do.
Awesome. Yay.
Good, thank
Yay.
you. So it's already an hour. Okay, now teman-teman semuanya, kita akan memulai acara Zoom kita kali ini karena Greg akan mempresentasikan tentang Milky Ways atau galaksi Bima Sakti yang saya tuh pengen lihat banget. Cuma karena saya ini bukan manusia malam, paling-paling kalau diajak bisa ngantuk, nggak bisa lihat ya. So I think it will be difficult for me to have the Milky Ways journey like Greg because I always fall asleep when I see the sun is going down, right, Greg? So I would like Greg to do it to me instead of me. So that is why I invite him to join us today. Jadi teman-teman, kita akan menyimak bagaimana perjalanan dari Greg ini ketika hunting. Okay, Greg, maybe now you can tell a little bit about your experience. So I can try once more the PowerPoint, but so far you can start it.
What was the first slide on the PowerPoint?
Yeah, what was the first time, for example?
Yeah, like it's probably easier if you ask me questions. I would like to know how many people here. I expected more people on camera, but how many people have ever tried to shoot the Milky Way or ever shot astro or go out? Okay, I know you guys have, but is anyone else? Is it a common thing, or is it like do you do astro? Because I know that when I'm in Indonesia, I spend a lot of time shooting during the day, but also I shoot at night. Like Mount Bromo is a day and a nighttime shoot, like all through the night.
I see no one. Because
so I can talk a bit about just my experience. So my friends and I, we started shooting the Milky Way. Actually, I have some friends that are very into it. So I learn a lot going out and shooting with these guys. And it's very peaceful because we go and drive out to the desert usually, or somewhere where it's totally dark. There's no moon. You can never shoot it when the moon is out because your image is gonna be terrible. So it's super peaceful because usually it'll be a nice summer night and it will be nice warm weather and pitch black, dark, and you're under the stars, and there's nothing more peaceful doing it. And that's what's so addicting about shooting Milky Way or astro or anything at night. Is if anyone's ever been to Mount Bromo at night, minus the crowd, if you can get a spot that's kind of away from people, because a lot of Milky Way shots are done in the middle of the desert or the middle of somewhere where it's very, very dark, because you want to be away from the city, because you don't want the city lights to be glowing anywhere near the when you're filming the Milky Way or shooting it. So whether you're taking a time lapse or you're shooting stills, so that's really critical. And you can never shoot it during the moon, like I said. So I do it mostly because it's so peaceful. Like I just love it, and I love the finished products. It's really cool, and it takes a little while to learn, some of the settings. But for me, it's more of like a spiritual journey, because I like to be out with the stars. I'm away from all the city life, and it's just surreal because it's so quiet and silent. And if you can find a place without a lot of people, then I think you'll have a lot of fun.
Jadi teman-teman, dia ini suka mengadakan perjalanan untuk memotret Bima Sakti karena dia bilang perjalanan malam itu mengasihkan dan damai ya. Kemudian dia juga menikmati sekali yang namanya alam semesta, karena kalau malam tuh kayaknya lebih indah gitu ya, lebih wow. Dan dia ini juga menyukai astrofotografi karena nanti bisa kalau udah selesai gitu diedit bagus banget ya. Dan ini adalah cara yang bagus banget untuk bermain dengan exposure, dengan menangkap bintang-bintang yang ada di langit. When is exactly the right time to make a photographing the Milky Ways? I don't know, it doesn't work.
So the easiest way, because each year it changes and things are cyclical, so I always look it up each year online. It's called Milky Way season. So you just search it in wherever you are on the planet and see when it's available to you to see. Because if it's, let's say, just April to August, September, then that when it's Milky Way season, that means the Milky Way is going to be like upright. So when you see those time lapses where it actually moves like this and then it goes down, that's technically Milky Way season. But sometimes early on in the season, you'll see the Milky Way kind of go up a little bit, but then by the time the sun rises, it only came up a little. So it's a whole range. Just look it up in your area. Usually there's some form of way to find out, and there's a lot of like awesome Milky Way websites that have this information. So there's that aspect. But then when it is Milky Way season, there's an app I use, and it's called Photo Pills, like PHOTO. I'll write it in the comments, the chat. This is the app, and you just get it at any app store or the Google Play Store. And what it does is it tells you, so you can hold it up to the sky wherever the Milky Way is going to be, and it'll show you, so you'll see like clearly where the Milky Way is going to be, and then it'll tell you the time on the bar, what time it's going to be in each position. So if you're shooting a still, you can get it in a certain position, or if you're shooting a time lapse, it'll tell you kind of when it starts and when it stops. So it's we live by that app. I wouldn't ever try shooting it without some form of app, because when you have a tool like that, you can also plan your shot. And the critical thing about Milky Way is filming the Milky Way is great, but having a scene where it's a little bit more exciting, where there might be a shaped rock or a foreground or something in the fore, midground and background, so that it looks great. So if you can get all those elements together, then you're going to have a successful shot of it.
Jadi dia bercerita bahwa kapan memotret Milky Ways ini. Jadi waktunya ini bisa ditelusuri di www.darkskyfinder.com. When is Milky Way season? Jadi di sini ada musim-musimnya. Kalau tidak salah waktu itu saya pernah lihat bahwa yang paling bagus itu ketika summer. Jadi Juni, Juli, Agustus, September, awal dari Oktober begitu ya. Jadi di bulan-bulan ini yang namanya Milky Ways atau galaksi Bima Sakti itu lebih cantik daripada bulan-bulan yang lain dan kelihatan sangat jelas di langit. Dan tentu saja tempatnya tidak di semua tempat ya, karena tempatnya hanya di tempat-tempat tertentu, dan di PowerPoint yang sudah disiapkan dia
So the first one was a G Technology commercial. The second one was just like a fun video of just some extra footage that we had that was me up top on the thing. We were like climbing rocks like in the desert. If you notice, most of it, a lot of that's in the desert.
This one? Yeah, this one.
So it's a California
And
desert. The one was on the Google Drive. I think it was just like a straight up just Milky Way. Just a whole Milky Way sequence. Because normally when I film a Milky Way, I just kind of put it within the videos to show the passing of time and to show how cool the Milky Way looks if you actually get a good shot of it. So it's hard to watch a whole bunch of Milky Ways in a video, but I think it was just a short video of like I had more Milky Way shots together.
Yeah. Okay. So those are in California, you said.
Yeah.
Can you tell
So
us a little bit?
pretty much all my Milky Way shots, I think, are in California at some point. Whether being Death Valley, this is various. I think the Borrego Desert. Borrego, is it Borregos?
Jadi teman-teman kebanyakan foto-foto
Alabama Hills.
galaksi Bima Sakti diambil di Death Valley di California. Jadi tempatnya dia tinggal meskipun dia berasal dari Kanada. Okay, so I think you
So
already
because Los
spoke-
Angeles is so big and there's so much city everywhere that we have to drive far out to the desert, like 4 or 5 hours to get really, really dark skies. This particular shot is in Arizona at a slot canyon. So there's actually a canyon in between those rocks we go through, and then we put a model up top that climbed the rock to shoot the beam into the sky. So that was, there's no Milky Way in that, but it was just an astro shot. So during non-Milky Way months, you can just film something like this and go and shoot and play with the stars and use a light and keep it, perfectly still and just play with your exposures so you can get the stars. The rocks, we lit up those rocks. That was special lighting that we did. We just kind of lit it upwards and we hid the lights down below. And then I think that was just a flashlight that he was hanging onto. And we said, hold your breath and go perfectly still, because I think the exposure on it was like 10 or 15 seconds. So the guy holding the flashlight can't move, because if they move, it won't be a nice beam. It'll just kind of be like this wide kind of yucky beam. So that's one of the things is whenever I always try to put someone in the photo, or if someone's in the photo, they have to hold their breath for the shot. So we yell at them, or we'll have a walkie-talkie and just be like, okay, we're shooting in three minutes. So that's the thing about these, because they're long exposures. So usually someone's holding their breath from 30 seconds down to 10 seconds.
Okay.
Like,
Jadi ini
especially those other shots that we just saw in the desert, I think, because they're me in it. So one of my friends would hit the shutter, and then when he wanted to be in the photo, we would just switch, and I would hit the shutter and then shoot him. So we could each have our own photo with ourselves in it. But yeah, they have to be like perfectly still and hold their breath, because if they move a little, it's going to be blurry.
Jadi teman-teman, ini ada di Slot Canyon di Arizona, dan saya baru tahu kalau ternyata kalau bikin foto begini harus pakai walkie-talkie. Saya kira harus teriak gitu, hei sudah siap gitu ya, ternyata enggak. Jadi kalau sudah siap gitu, jadi pakai walkie-talkie, karena kalau dia goyang gitu, maksudnya harus menahan nafas gitu ya, karena kalau dia tidak menahan nafas nanti fotonya goyang, karena dia kan pakai bawa senter gitu kan, dan senternya kalau dia nggak kenceng pegangnya gitu, nanti gambarnya orang yang ngambil dari bawah itu akan blur. Okay, now we go to, you already told us about when to photograph the Milky Way, and this one is in Badwater Basin. Where is it? Is this also in USA?
Yeah, so the one on the left is actually in Canada. It's a weird story, so I'm going to tell it. And it's a terrible shot, but I'm glad you showed it. So as I was learning,
a terrible shot, you said.
Well, it's really not that clear. It's okay, but I was using the total wrong lens, and I didn't, because I was traveling to Canada. I didn't have the right lens for this, because normally you want to use a prime lens. It's about 2.8 f-stop. So this was shot with, I think it was like what was I using? I don't even remember, but it was like a 10 millimeter, because I wanted it so wide. I was using a 10 millimeter manual lens. It was a Voigtlander, and it was 5.6, or it was 4.5 to 5.6 f-stop. So it wasn't even the correct lens, but I was just there. So I'm like, okay, I'll try and get it. The interesting thing, and this is a true story. So the rocks that our model is standing on is actually rocks that fell from I'm trying to remember the story, but there's a town that's underneath those rocks. So one day, I guess an avalanche came of rocks or something. I can't remember the name. I'll find the name and I'll send it to everyone so you can read up on it. But those rocks came down, and then it covered this town. And I think it obviously killed the people that were there. It happened during the night when people were sleeping. So to shoot there was like, I've never been, I've heard about this place, and it's in Alberta. I wish I knew the story. I didn't even know you were going to use this picture, but my friend took me there one time and he was like, you got to see this place. So I just tried to shoot. I didn't have the right equipment, but I wish I had the right equipment because the Milky Way would look a lot better. So we just shot it whatever we could. He got wicked shots. Mine is like, whatever, it's okay. But that's just it, just to be there and to see something in history that happened, like a tragedy that happened, but it took out, you know, probably like, I think it was like 130 people were sleeping in this little town, and these rocks just came one day and just took out the town, but they're still there to this day and they light up white. So it's a very eerie shot. So actually, you know, you're just reminding me I should probably go there in the summer or something and reshoot it because we can definitely make it look better now with more experience.
So this was the left one.
Yeah, let me find the name. I'll type the name in here. So if you tell them in Bahasa, then I'll find out.
Okay, and the right one is in the Badwater. This is in the USA.
So the one on the right is it's in Death Valley.
Death
And
Valley.
that is Salt Flats. Salt Flats. I can't remember. I've only been to Death Valley once, but that was when you saw the time lapse in the video. That's the actual still from that same time lapse. So the nice thing about it, when you shoot time lapse Milky Way, you can take a still or you can take a chunk of 10 stills as long as the increment's not too long between them, and then you can stack them. But I just took a still and just adjusted it real quick to see what it would look like, and it came out nice. It's called this. So in Canada, you'll want to check this out. So let's back up to that first story. So Canada.
Jadi yang di sebelah kiri ini adalah di Kanada. Katanya fotonya ini menurut saya udah bagus banget ya. Tapi kalau dia bilang ini ya lumayan lah gitu. Karena ternyata dia salah pakai lensa. Jadi untuk fotografer atau teman-teman semua yang suka memotret, mungkin juga harus memperhatikan pemilihan dari lensa. Apakah benar lensa yang dipilih atau dibawa ketika memotret sesuatu. Dan yang di sebelah kanan ini dia masih mencari apa namanya tadi ya? Death Valley.
Those white rocks, that's called Frank Slide. So it was a deadliest rock slide, and it took out an entire town, and the rocks sit there to this day. So it's just a weird location. But I just see a question here. It says, what can we see it? What is astronomy and astrology? I'm not sure if that's...
We can answer the question later when you're ready
okay,
finish
no
the
problem.
presentation. And now we go to what did I prepare? So what did you prepare before you making photos of the Milky Ways?
Okay, so usually when I do Milky Way, I'm going to a place for sure that I'm not coming back home overnight. So I'm staying somewhere overnight, whether we camp or we just stay in some motel or something. So bring stuff for overnight and bring lots of layers. So anyone who's into landscape photography, and even in Indonesia, I've been up when I've hiked volcanoes. At the top, it's very cold. So I always have layers of layers, and I always wear wool. So I always prepare to be cold just in case the weather changes, because you're there all night and you're there until the sun comes up. So that's very important. You need a sturdy tripod. Don't get a flimsy one, because sometimes the wind can blow it and it can change your shot. So you want the tripod sturdy and in the ground before you shoot. Photo Pills app, which I put in the comments. You need food. Bring extra food. I never go. A lot of my friends.
But it's not hot pot, right? It's not hot pot.
It's not hot pot. No, it's not hot pot. No, you have to bring just bring sandwiches, something with protein, just so because you're going to eat throughout the night, because you're staying up until the sun comes up. And then when the sun comes up, you're not tired anymore. It's just this weird thing. Now it's like morning. So you probably go have breakfast and then you go sleep again. So definitely bring that. Prepare for weather. So, I mean, I'm talking rain jacket, because if you're going to some place that's away from the city, you're not going to have any amenities or anything. So bring everything that you would if you're camping. If you're in a hot climate like you guys, I always bring electrolytes. Never leave home without them. That'll mess up your day in a hurry if you're in really hot weather, as you guys know. And I would also bring, so as far as equipment, so depending on what camera you shoot, always shoot it with like a fast lens, like a prime lens, something that's like at least 2.0 to 2.8. I find that because I shoot Sony equipment, so Sony's 2.8s are incredibly sharp. So usually I'm shooting at 2.0 to 2.8. There's no need really for a mirrorless that's that sharp to go any lower. Other brands, I can't tell you. I think I've only tried once with a different brand, but the lens. So there's something called the 500 rule. Is anyone familiar with that rule? So if you want to know about exposure, okay, we'll come back to that. I'm still talking about gear that I bring. So I would bring anything you are going to bring for camping. So that's that would probably sum that up.
Mhm.
And as far as the lenses, so because I'm just going off your list here, so we had talked about lenses.
Okay.
And I always shoot it with so one of my favorite lenses is the Zeiss 18 millimeter Batis lens was what I'd shot, but then Sony came out with this incredible line of really fast prime lenses, and they started with the 24 millimeter. So those really, really nice shots, that the ones that I'm proud of that were lit well and kind of in the desert, those ones were shot with the 24 millimeter Sony Prime 1.4. But it's so good at light, you don't have to have it at 1.4. I think we shot that at about 2.8. I can check, but I'm positive we didn't go lower than 2.8. So that's pretty much what I would shoot with. So depending on what camera you shoot, for DSLR, you would want the fastest lens because they're not very good at low light, but especially the Sony mirrorless, they're excellent at low light. So you can always shoot at 2.8, get a super sharp shot and no problem get the Milky Way. So as far as exposure, there's a 500 rule. So it's really, really simple. You just take 500 and divide it by your focal length, and that gives you a general amount of exposure that you're going to do. So I have an example here. So for example, let's say you have a 14 millimeter lens and you want to know how long do I expose it for. So you just take 500, divide by 14, and that gives you about 35.7 seconds. So that might be a little bit too long. You can try the 500 rule. It's just a general rule, but depending on what camera and how well they're good at low light depends, because other cameras, you don't need 37 seconds. You can get away with 10 seconds at the right settings. So that's kind of a good general rule to start with. So it's called the 500 rule. I'll write it in the comments. And so you guys can look it up in Bahasa. It's called 500.
Okay. Jadi teman-teman, yang dipersiapkan dia seperti halnya kalau kita ini mau camping gitu ya. Jadi baju hangat, terus alas hangat, kemudian topi gitu ya, kemudian makanan. Karena kan di sana nggak ada yang jualan ya kan. Kalau di sana ada yang jualan bisa tinggal beli gitu, tinggal gesek. Terus dia juga mengatakan bahwa untuk kamera dia, karena dia ini adalah dutanya Sony, jadi dia bilang yang terbaik kameranya adalah Sony A7S3. Ini bagus banget untuk Milky Way, dan mereka ini punya kamera dengan lensa prime yang favoritnya tuh Sony 24 mm. Kemudian waktu dan lokasi yang ditentukan, dia menggunakan aplikasi Photo Pills ketika berada di lokasi, karena di situ dia bisa mendapatkan secara tepat di mana sih sebenarnya rotasi Bima Sakti sepanjang malam tuh gitu ya. Dan dia juga merencanakan lokasi dan pemandangan sebelum memotret, dan merekomendasikan untuk mengadakan tes malam untuk menemukan elemen foto terbaik, seperti halnya latar belakangnya dari depan, dari belakang, gimana kalau ada cahayanya, terus kalau ada cakrawalanya gitu ya. Terus dia bilang kecepatannya adalah antara 10 sampai dengan 25 detik. Suruh masnya aja yang moto, saya yang ikut gitu ya, cheerleadernya aja gitu. Kemudian kita juga harus menyesuaikan pengaturan kamera umum untuk Bima Sakti ini. Jedanya adalah minimal 2 detik. And this is also, you said this is Arizona, no? Picture.
Yeah, so
I
that one
forget
is
that one.
it's kind of a funny story. So I'll go back to it. So the 500 rule, just remember it's a very general rule. It just gives you a general exposure time, and you can play with the times because every camera is different and how they expose is different. So the key is to find out and learn how your camera exposes. I find that the 500 rule for me, for the gear I use, is too much exposure. I would never expose more than 30 seconds unless there was some weird reason. But like for example, the 24 mil, we were exposing 20 seconds, and then that's too bright. So then you come and bring it down to 15 seconds, and then that's around where it was good enough. So another thing is, so this photo, we can talk about, it's Death Valley. It's actually not my greatest photo because we were trying to light the scene, but where it's all black, I had to make it black because we blew out it was in the sand dunes. So we would hike out in sand dunes, pitch black at night. And there's a lot of photographers shooting Milky Way in the California desert. So you have to look for people's headlamps and lights. And you got to be very careful because you want to be away from everybody. Because like if somebody lights you, so the model here is actually my friend Gio, and he was wearing a headlamp. So I just told him to hold his breath, same thing, look up at the sky at the right angle. And if you went it too high, I would be like, lower your head. So you just yelled at each other and do this. So that's all we did. We shot all night, and we were with 5 or 6 people, and everyone went off in pairs and kind of did their own thing. So me and my friend, we just we did this and came out with that. So it came out not too bad. And keep in mind, these are single shots. I didn't start stacking until those really clear ones before. So normally those really clear Milky Way shots that are awesome are stacked. They're about 6 to 10 photos stacked together. And there's a couple good softwares that you can use. I think some of them, like Starry Landscape Stacker, I'm pretty sure that's what it's called, is the one I use. And so you'll take 10 shots in a row, but you'll expose. So let's say your first shot, you'll expose, let's say for 10 seconds, and then your camera will take a 2-second break, and then it'll still be focused. So you'll just keep taking, you'll take 10 consecutive shots. So usually these stacking and increment shots, there's a built-in feature inside your camera, depending on the camera you use, and you can just check your settings and it has that. If it doesn't have that, you'll be manually setting the timer. So always set your timer to like 2 seconds if you're going to manually do it. So you can hold the shutter down and then step away from the camera because you don't want to be touching your camera when it's exposing. So that's really critical. I'll let you tell the group. We can talk more about it.
Oke, jadi dia cerita sedikit tentang 500 rule tadi ya, aturan 500 tadi, bahwa setiap orang kan punya kamera sendiri ya. Kalau dia punya Sony karena dia adalah duta Sony. Kalau saya mungkin kabarnya beda karena saya bukan duta Sony. Dan mungkin teman-teman juga memakai Canon atau memakai Lumix atau apa saja. Jadi dari kita masing-masing sebenarnya harus banyak belajar atau mengerti dari kamera yang kita miliki. Karena setiap kamera punya karakter sendiri dan punya efek sendiri ketika memotret dengan objek yang sama meskipun kameranya berbeda gitu ya. Kemudian dia juga bercerita tentang foto Death Valley National Park yang ada di layar sekarang ini, bahwa ini waktu itu di padang pasir kalau nggak salah di Sen tadi ya. Dia mengambil foto sekitar 6-10 foto, habis itu dia olah dengan sebuah software. Okay, we go to tips photographing the Milky Ways. Have you told us before? Not yet, right?
Yeah, no, we covered that. So let's talk a bit about ISO. For those of you that know what ISO is, so it depends again on your camera. So for ISO, you're going to try and play with different ISOs on your camera. So learning the Milky Way is a lot of testing because when I first shot it, my very first time on my own, it was terrible. I was so embarrassed of the photo. I thought, I don't even know what I'm doing. And the thing is there's a lot of people who know how to shoot this thing well. So I just did my research online and research the camera you've got, because usually someone will have some advice on the settings. So without doing a workshop, it's very difficult for us to find the good settings for you to do this. And it's dependent on a lot of things. So for example, like let's just look at, can you pull up slide 8 really quick, Gana? So do you see on the right-hand side, you see that glowing orange light? That's from a city that's very far away, but it's glowing because it's in the background. So if it was pitch black and there was no city around, you wouldn't have that, but you'll see it in the shots. Because so that changed your exposure because you know you're catching that's more light that's going to be on your sensor. So go back to that slide we were at, the last slide. Right. So
jadi teman-teman yang di gambar yang saya tulis bed water basin ini, itu ada gambar yang kuning-kuningnya itu, lampu kuning-kuningnya itu dari kota. Jadi dari lampu kota gitu ya. Jadi berbeda dengan gambar yang di sebelah kiri yang ada di Kanada.
I usually don't go past 2.8. I don't have to go any lower. Especially with Sony prime lenses, forget it, because they're the cameras are so epic at grabbing low light that you don't need to. The ISO between 3200 and 6400, I usually don't go higher. However, there's a shot you'll see in here coming up. I think I shot it at 10,000 ISO for some reason because I wanted a shorter exposure because there's so much light splashing. There was like 10 photographers and we were trying to time it so we could shoot at the same time. Because if you're shooting and there's other photographers and they turn on their light, or if they turn on the red light, it ruins your shot. Completely done. So if you're doing a time lapse and some guy down the road turns on a red light and any of that light comes into your exposure, forget about your time lapse. You got to start over or just keep shooting through it and hope that you can use the clip, because time lapses take a long time. They take a while. They can take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long you're going to shoot. So with that said, your ISO, test different ISOs for your camera. So always use a prime lens for a rule, 100%. With Sony gear, you can actually get away with using, like I've shot some of these with a 16-35 G Master zoom lens. So I've shot them at 16 mil, I've shot them at 35 or 24 within my zoom lens. And because it's a 2.8 lens, it's still awesome at it. However, prime is going to be just that much more sharp and give you that much more of an edge.
Jadi dia menyarankan untuk memotret Milky Ways tadi menggunakan aperture f2,8, kemudian menyetel ISO 3200 sampai dengan 6400. Dengan kecepatan tadi udah saya bilang ya 10 sampai 25 detik. Kemudian memotretnya 10 gambar untuk ditumpuk. Terus tadi juga saya udah bilang dengan jeda minimal 2 detik.
So actually go back to the slide. We'll cover 2 more points, Gana. Always
Number?
shoot a manual. You're never going to shoot this thing at autofocus. Tell them that. That's a critical point. It's one of the next points. Yeah. So the white balance, I think you just got these notes off the internet, but I usually use tungsten for white balance. I like the white in it. You can play with different white balances depending on your type of camera, because everything captures color and detail differently across the board. So without doing an actual workshop, it's difficult to suggest these for them. And then I talked about the stacking, the 2-second timer on your camera. So if you've got a 2, a 5, or a 10-second timer, I just use 2 seconds. So I push it down and I can hear it go, but manual focus is critical. Now, before you shoot the Milky Way, you have to be able to focus on the star. So you got to take test shots, and you got to focus on the brightest star manually. So once your camera's on the tripod, you're going to use the eyepiece and you're going to focus and try to get like one of the brightest stars that you can. And then you're going to like take a shot and then zoom in and see if it's perfectly round and in focus. Well, as best as it can be, but in focus, then you're going to see a sharp focus. You want to have that completely round. So that is how you begin, because you take a bunch of test shots, and if they look good, then you once all your settings are perfect, you write your settings down, because you're going to need them again. So if you've got your lens, your camera, and your right settings, there's certain lenses that I just have notes. I think I got notes on my phone. It's like, if I'm using this lens, it's this setting. If I'm using this lens, it's that setting, as far as where I'm going to find my focus. Because a general rule to that also is you can set your manual focus to infinity, but sometimes just before infinity is going to be a sharper image. So it just depends on your gear then again. So as a general rule to beginners or an intermediate, if you want to play with it, take your first shot at infinity. If you find you're having trouble manually trying to focus on one of those bright stars, but do it from your tripod, do it from where you're shooting at, because you're pointing in that direction anyways. You got to make sure that your scene is going to be sharp, because if not, it's going to look funny. Or if you do, like I was going to say, you got to remember, because the planet's moving, right? So everything's in motion. So if you've ever seen a Milky Way shot where the stars don't look perfectly round, it's because they either exposed too long and it started to smear. So it'll take all the stars and kind of smear them, just like paint. It means either you exposed too long or you didn't focus properly. So it could be one of those two things. So it's very important to get your perfect focus first, and then fire off a couple test shots and then zoom in on them and make sure those stars are round. Because if they're oval or if they're starting to smear a bit, then you've got to adjust your settings to accommodate that.
Oke, baik. Jadi dia bilang kalau ingin mendapatkan foto galaksi Bima Sakti yang paling terang, biasanya ada banyak kesalahan yang kita lakukan, yaitu pertama adalah eksposurnya terlalu panjang dan kita enggak fokus, yang kedua ya. Jadi sebelum dua kesalahan ini kita lakukan, kita harus melakukan banyak tes. Dan yang namanya tes itu kan harus sabar ya, karena dicoba lagi, karena kan blur, nggak jelas begitu ya. Jadi memang butuh banyak latihan. Okay, so this is you, or this was you, right? And who made the photo of it?
So basically after we went and shot one location, I was with Stan and Michael, 2 really good friends of mine. And Stan is like a wizard when it comes to Milky Way. So he kind of like helps coach us, because he does it so much that he just knows all the settings and how to do them fast. So he had this location and he's like, let's take it from the freeway. So we had to make sure, because in the distance we could see and make sure there was no trucks coming. And if they came, or a car, because we're in the middle of the desert, then we have some time to shoot and then get out of the way, because we can't have any lights flash. So this one we knew we were coming back, and we knew the Milky Way was going to be upright. Perfect. Because that was the actual location. So we tried to fire off, I think 5 or 7 shots each. And then we all took turns standing and holding our breath in the shot, just so we could have our own shots of ourselves. We basically put the camera low down, so it shot up to the sky, but because it's a wide angle lens, I'm pretty sure this is the 24 millimeter again, Sony Prime, because you're shooting it up to the sky and we're shooting this one at portrait, we were able to get some of that road in there, like those lines. So it's just a different kind of thing. So pretty much the same rules apply. The road's pitch black, it's dark, we're all using our headlamps and we're trying to set the scene, but it was something that was just a little bit more interesting.
Oke, jadi ini kan saya kan tanya, ini kan yang difoto kan dia, terus yang moto siapa gitu lah. Ternyata temennya dia gitu. Jadi kalau dalam sebuah tim pencarian foto Milky Way atau galaksi Bima Sakti ini kan banyak orang kan. Nah ini gantian fotonya, soalnya biasanya fotografer dia itu tidak akan masuk di dalam foto karena dia memotret kan. Nah, akhirnya gantian. Nah, akhirnya dia melakukan 5-7 kali shot, jadi temannya itu dengan kamera yang low down 24 mm dan fotonya bentuk dengan potret karena dari daratannya sampai dengan galaksinya itu semuanya akan kelihatan gitu ya kalau potret. Cuman kalau kita landscape gitu nggak kelihatan yang dari depannya. Okay. So now is the final tips and motivation from Gregg.
Actually, let's just jump down to your last slide. So this photo, this one is a single shot at all. There was a guy I just met. There was a few people shooting. So in order to not get in each other's way, we said, why don't we use someone who could stand perfectly still on that rock? And then we had a light. So I had a light and we kind of lit this orange kind of rock just so that we had it's a very small light and it just lit that rock for us. And I think this one was like ISO 10,000. I'm trying to, let me see if I can find my exposure. I can't, I'm on full screen. I can send you guys like the exposure on this, but if I'm not mistaken, it was like ISO 10,000. I was using my 1635 G Master A7R3 camera. And I think that I must have had it at ISO 6500. Like it was like one of those things. It was either 3500 or 6500, but it was in that range. And that's how long I exposed it. So it was a single exposure. This is not a stacked shot. And I liked how it came out because there was so much detail. And if you look at the stars, you'll see that they're round, how I talked about getting that focus. So I was trying to time lapse it and it didn't work because there was so much splashing of light. This guy turned on his headlamp while I'm exposing, because sometimes people don't ask. They're like, so we always ask, are you guys on or off? Like, is it exposing? Are you running? So this one was just a single shot. So I actually came out. So I was a zoom lens, a Sony camera, A7R3, 1635 zoom, and single shot. But it looks like almost as good, not quite as good, but it looks like I used 10 images and I didn't. So that helps explain kind of all this stuff that I'm talking about. Because if you look closely at the brightest stars, they're pretty round.
Okay, Gregg, we have only 15 minutes. I think we need to go to the questions.
The second last slide, just seeing if I'm missing anything.
This one?
Yeah, I just want to read it.
Can you make it quick?
Right. So that's exactly. So final tips is just prepare to make a ton of mistakes, because you're not, chances of getting it first time, forget about it, because you're not going to know your camera or your settings very well. Also research places to go, because you want an interesting scene. You just don't want to shoot the Milky Way and there's the horizon and nothing there. So, you know, for wherever you're located, you can find something cool to put in that scene. And yeah, get used to failing, because I fail all the time. I mean, sometimes I go out and I get nothing and my shots are terrible, and sometimes they're not too bad. So it really just depends. So I would just say, like, keep your head up and just keep practicing. I think that's all. Keep a good attitude, because you're right. You might come back and there could be a setting you didn't even know. You're like, you get back and you look at your shots and like, oh my God, I forgot this one thing. Or my ISO, I bumped the finger, and you didn't, because you're in the dark and it's hard to see stuff. So you can make some mistake you didn't even know you made until you get the shot on your computer and you're like, it's not even in focus. So I've had plenty of those days where I've shot and I come back and I'm like, oh, I must have had this. I forgot to change the white balance, or I forgot to change one thing, or I had my focus not on manual, it was on automatic. So obviously it's not going to focus, like just stupid things. And, you know, it's in the middle of the night, so you will make mistakes. So try not to, and just try to be like as good as you can.
Oke, jadi dia punya tips terakhir bahwa sebelum mengadakan perjalanan atau memotret dari galaksi Bima Sakti ini, kita harus banyak riset ya, karena kalau dia beberapa kali pernah ya, karena kurang banyak riset, akhirnya dia itu hasilnya nggak ada gitu, artinya tidak sesuai yang diharapkan gitu. Kemudian juga keep practicing. Jadi kata orang Jerman juga, semakin banyak berlatih akan semakin bagus juga hasilnya atau keberhasilan yang dimiliki. Baik, kita langsung saja. Silakan bagi teman-teman yang ingin mendapatkan sertifikat dari Zoom kita kali ini untuk segera mengisi dari form Google Form yang sudah dituliskan oleh Pak Sutiono dan Mas Oni. Saya langsung ke Mas Bahrudin. Saya bacakan saja karena waktunya hanya sedikit. Izin bertanya Mbak Gana, saya kebetulan guru fisika dan pernah belajar astronomi atau ilmu perbintangan. Namun saya belum pernah melihat Milky Way secara langsung dan belum pernah menemukan jawaban mengapa galaksi Bima Sakti menurut bahasa Inggris adalah Milky Way, yang berarti jalan susu. Apakah penampakan Milky Way yang memang putih seperti susu ketika melihatnya secara langsung? So this was the question, because I think we shared the first page was about what is the Milky Way. I told about the Greek that there is a Princess Hera or something like that spread out this milk, so that is why the people called Milky Way. And he asked why people call it as Milky Way. Is it because you can see the white milk on the sky, or what is it about?
I actually don't know. Let's look it up. I seriously don't know.
You
I've
just
shot it
know
so
it.
many times. I don't even know why they call it that. I thought you researched that.
Ya,
Let me
oke.
see what I can
Jadi,
find. They call
jadi Mas Bahrudin, jadi dia sendiri nggak tahu, tapi dia sudah banyak mengadakan perjalanan untuk mendapatkan foto Milky Way ini. Jadi memang benar itu gambarnya seperti lingkaran susu begitu ya, seperti putih. Dan orang Yunani itu mengenalnya atau mempercayainya itu adalah sebuah cerita dari Dewi Hera yang menyemprotkan susu ke langit. Jadi kalau orang-orang Yunani gitu kan mereka banyak cerita apa ya kayak putri-putrian dewa-dewa gitu kan. Nah itu si Dewi Heranya ini yang menyemprotkan susu ke langit hingga kita bisa melihatnya sampai dengan hari ini. Langsung saja kita ke Tanjojin. Greg, can we go there for fun? So because you said you need to do many things and prepare many things, and it's not a luxury like in hotels, somehow like that.
Yeah, you can do it for fun for sure.
Really?
Yeah, I'm just reading about the Milky Way. I didn't even know a lot of this stuff. It's so weird. I shot it so many times. Because it's our galaxy. So you're looking at, a lot of people believe it's a spiral in our galaxy, and you're right because of the coloring. But technically it's light years away. So it's like 100,000 years away to even, so when we're shooting it's not even current time. It's just like, that's a really geeky question, but I should get you guys the answer for it. As far as the easy question, so I do it for fun for sure, because it's so peaceful and fun. I love shooting for fun. I always try to make sure I have fun. I get Milky Way shots because I like to put them in videos. And that's just a thing I like to do, because I like the time lapse, and I like to move that footage and then render it out at 30 frames per second. So it's nice and smooth, but that's just me. I couldn't, you can make money at it for sure. If you're really good at it, you can sell it on stock footage and some of those stock sites. If you sell some volume, you'll make some decent money in US dollars. It just depends on how good your shot is and how much people pay on those sites and what your commission is. So I would just shop around and look at the sites and look at your pay. But for me, it's always in business. So a client will, if I'm making a video, like for example, that commercial that we saw, I had a Milky Way shot in there. It's just kind of part of the package that I give for the client. So it's just easier. And I like it when I shoot it rather than like having to use some kind of stock footage and stuff, because it's just not even going to be the same camera and it's going to look weird. So
Okay, good. So, jadi Tanju bisa, kalau misalnya ini untuk have some fun, tiap orang bisa melakukannya. So, connected to the Tanju question, Pak Sutiono asks, this project, is it a hobby or professional job for you, Greg? Do you sell the picture to who? And how many US dollar?
Yeah, no, it's definitely pro. That's professional. It depends, because if there's a certain picture and a brand or somebody wants to buy it, then I just license it to them and they can use it for their marketing or whatever they want. So it just really depends. Most of my Milky Way shots have just been out of like pure fun with my friends, and we'll go and shoot them. And really, there's so many wicked Milky Way shots that I don't know if I would ever get paid just for these shots. But I usually shoot the time lapse because I'm going to keep that footage and then use it in the video, because that's where I come in, and then that's when I would get paid for that. So you don't really sell the Milky Way on its own. You sell it in a packages, like you're doing a commercial or you're doing a film or something, and then it's part of your licensing for the imagery. If that makes sense.
And how many people in your team, Greg?
It just depends. Usually if I go to the desert, it's minimum 3 of us, and you don't really want, or 3 or 4, you don't really want more than that for Milky Way shooting for sure, because there's just too many lights and too many people to keep track of. It's like a film set. The more people and the harder the film is, like the more complex it is, then you got to keep track of what everyone's doing, because you definitely don't want light pollution, is what we call it, is when someone turns on their light but didn't ask if someone's running the camera, and if they're open and their shutters open, trying to get it, because you want the pitch black sky and you can't have any extra light because he's already exposed for no extra light. But if someone turn on a light, then it ruins the shot. So like 3-4 people at the most. Anything more is going to be a headache. So just bring like Tylenol or ibuprofen for your head.
Oke, jadi Pak Sutiono tadi si Greg cerita bahwa dia memang profesional. Jadi untuk Milky Way ini, Galaksi Bima Sakti, dia perjalanannya memang berdasarkan bisnis ya. Kemudian dia juga mengambil video. Jadi biasanya ia akan menjual paket paket, jadi nggak hanya foto tapi paket video untuk film atau iklan, di mana ini juga melibatkan sekitar 3 sampai 4 orang. Kalau kebanyakan bisa pusing kepalanya ya. Dan kita langsung aja ke pertanyaan berikutnya dari Nike Nursanti. Why are you interested for Milky Ways as your object? I think we have told already. And now we go to...
If you've ever shot, I'll just add to that. So if you've ever shot the Milky Way and then your picture turned out decent, you'll be super happy. You'll be like, wow, I can't believe I actually did that. And then it's just cool, right? You post it on social and people go, wow, that's really, really cool. For me, unfortunately, I shoot it with people that are always probably way better at it than I am. And but thankfully I've become better at it now where I can go on my own and shoot and enjoy it and stuff. And it's really just, it's like a personal thing because it really is kind of a spiritual experience when you're not in a city, it's dark out, the entire sky's out, it's quiet, and all you hear is nature, and there's no one around unless someone's talking. Tell them to be quiet, but it's just it's incredible. So for me, it's just a feeling that I love to do it. But I don't think you can do a full-time job unless you took like so many Milky Way shots and photos and video and then posted it online and started selling on some of those sites.
Okay, now the next question from Nico. Gregg, which photo experience that most impressive for you so far? So you shot already, I think, like 7, 8 pictures on the PowerPoint. So which one is your best?
Man, I love them all. So it's weird because I go back to that experience. So every time I go, it's a totally different experience. Because before sunset, we always do stuff like we'll drone, or when you see that video, we'll drone and we'll shoot other stuff when the sun's up. And then when the sun sets, we'll get that. So we'll catch our sunset shots. Then we'll eat, and then we wait because usually around 12, 1 a.m. if it's Milky Way season, that's when we can start shooting the Milky Way, like 11, 12, 1, depending on the time of year. So I think my favorite is the ones where we had some above light and we lit the scene a little bit more and we caught some of the cool rocks. It's always a favorite too, because we get ideas and we go, hey, what if we did this? Or what if we do that? And we just try to make a different scene so it looks different because there's so many good Milky Way shots out there. So we just try to make something. So I think, yeah, probably the first couple that were side by side that you saw where I was on the rock and then I was just in the cracked kind of dry lake bed. Those ones are definitely my favorites.
Okay, jadi dia bilang bahwa setiap perjalanan yang dia alami ketika mencari Milky Way ini semuanya unik. Jadi dari perjalanan dengan timnya, dari cara memotretnya, atau mungkin dari hasilnya sendiri, kemudian dari apa namanya ya, kalau dibilang dari hasil akhirnya sendiri, itu masing-masing punya keunikan sendiri-sendiri.
And the key is if you ever are shooting the Milky Way and you get a bad shot, what do you say? E. Is that what you say? I say E. E. When you don't like something, you go E, or you're like,
yeah, E.
So if you don't like it, it's like E, right? So remember that, and then you make your adjustment, and then you shoot it better, and you go, okay, good.
Okay, E. Okay.
E-I-H. What is it? I-I-H. How do you spell E? Because I hear everyone say it, so I pick it up, and I'm like, E. I'm like, are they mad? I'm learning the language, and I'm learning the culture, so I have to know what.
Yeah, you have to speak bahasa Indonesia.
Like if someone calls me bule, I need to know. I need to understand that because I'm not no regular bule, right? So I'm not your typical Westerner, so I have to understand. So E.
Okay, good. Baik, teman-teman yang belum mengisi formulir dari e-sertifikat, silahkan untuk mengecek di kolom chat. Dan Mbak Siti Aisyah mengatakan, it's nice to see you, Gregg. Thanks for your sharing.
Awesome to see you guys. Thank you so much, everyone. And if anyone has any questions, just DM me or find me on Instagram, no problem. If you have any questions or anything, or even just general photography or anything, I'm always glad to help.
Good. I think we don't have any question anymore. I think I have already read all. Dan terima kasih sekali lagi untuk Dek Andra dan Dek Grace yang tadi sudah sharing. Ini bajunya baju tradisional mana nih, Dek Andra? Dek Andra juga dari Kupang nih.
Oh,
nah, ini bajunya dari saya.
Ini dari Grace.
Oh, dari saya.
Tapi ini kayak caping, tapi namanya
dari?
capio.
Capio
itu beneran dipakai oleh orang Bajo.
From Bajo, in Flores, no?
No, Wakatobi.
Wakatobi. I would love to go there, snorkeling, Wakatobi.
Yeah.
Oh, must be very Very nice. Sekali lagi saya ingatkan teman-teman untuk yang belum mengisi G-form untuk e-sertifikat, segera melihat e-chat-nya. Karena nanti kalau sudah hilang nanti nggak bisa ngisi lagi ya. Itu sudah dibuat oleh Dek Sabrina Senjari dari Universitas PKRI Semarang yang telah membantu kita. Dan banyak mendukung kegiatan Zoom dari tahun kemarin sampai dengan tahun ini dengan kerjasama International Office UKRIS. Baik, terima kasih sekali lagi untuk teman-teman, adik-adik yang dari UIN Kudus, untuk dosen Sunarni juga ya, untuk sudah mengundang mahasiswa-mahasiswinya di sini, kemudian juga semua komunitas yang ada di Kompasiana, serta anggota dari Komunitas Traveler Kompasiana atau dari Koteka. Dan saya terima kasih sekali lagi untuk Gregg Jaden, thank you very much for today, your sharing, and of course Andra Fembrianto and Grace for the clip Cipak-Cipuk. It's very interesting, a very good job, and good luck for the festival anyway. And before we close this program, I would like everyone to switch on the video so we can make a photo together. Social media.
And my lovely background, my tropical background.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't see Pak Sutiono, Farisa in Aceh. Oh, in Aceh, I would like to go there. Aceh, Mbak May, it's not yet. Susi, mungkin belum mandi jadinya videonya nggak dinyalain. Atau lagi makan. Nah, ini nih si Farisa yang ada di Aceh nih kelihatan nih. Ada Andin. Andin, kamu di mana nih?
There's
Di Jakarta,
everybody.
di
What's
Jerman.
up, everyone?
Yay! I see you, Andin. Nice to see you. We just talk through Instagram. No, I see you. Very beautiful.
I'm from Jogja.
Ah, from Jogja. You said you want to go to Berlin. Then you should passing by to my house, right? Good.
Hai, in Aceh, jarang banget nampak Milky Way-nya, Mbak Gana.
Ya, di Aceh. Oke, silahkan dinyalakan videonya semua yang di halaman 2. Dwi Haryadi, Siska, Eka, Ita, Rizka, Dea, Mbak Irma yang ada di Bogor. Pak Trilokon yang ada di Sulawesi. Oh, Sulawesi Island. I would like to go there. Saifuddin yang ada di Kudus. Widya Arum, silakan dinyalakan videonya, fotonya, kameranya supaya saya bisa melihat wajah, bisa cantik gini. Oke, good. Dea, Irma, Desi. Nah, disisir begini, disisir ya. Ada yang disisir lagi sisiran. Oke, siap ya? Ya,
It's nice to
Rizka
see
pakai masker
everyone
nih.
because I've been looking at everyone's photos, so now I get to see what everyone looks like.
Ya, karena si Greg tuh pengen lihat gambar
Yeah.
wajah-wajahnya ini kok
We
nggak
got
ada
Rizka, she's
fotonya
got the
gitu. Dia mau
mask.
lihat jauh-jauh dari Kanada nih.
Nice looking hijab. I
Nah,
like
ya.
it.
Ya, terima kasih sekali lagi untuk hari ini teman-teman semua yang telah hadir. Tadi sudah ada sekitar 38 peserta. Sudah lumayan banyak ya. Dan semoga sharing kita bersama Gregg Jaden dan Andra Fembrianto dan Grace tadi sangat bermanfaat dan memberikan sebuah wawasan, ide, atau pengetahuan baru tentang film dan fotografi. Saya Gana Stegmann dari Jerman. Sampai jumpa untuk minggu depan. Minggu depan kita akan ke jalur Gaza, karena di jalur Gaza sekarang lagi bom banyak di mana-mana. Meskipun sekarang lagi ada gencatan senjata, kita akan tahu bagaimana seorang relawan International Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies dari Indonesia, dari Yogyakarta, yang dikirim ke jalur Gaza untuk menjadi seorang relawan dan menceritakan bagaimana sebenarnya pengalaman seorang Indonesia, seorang wanita Indonesia yang dikirim ke daerah yang sangat gawat, bagaimana dia melihat kehidupan di sana itu apakah seperti di Indonesia atau tidak, atau mungkin apa saja yang membuat dia itu merasa betah ada di sana. Jadi tunggu saja, silakan mendaftarkan diri di Sabtu depan bersama moderator Oni Jamhari. Saya mengucapkan sekali lagi terima kasih kepada semuanya yang telah hadir di sini. Silakan mengisi G-form untuk e-sertifikat, dan terima kasih sekali untuk energinya hari ini, waktunya, dan semoga ada yang beruntung untuk mendapatkan kartu pos dari Gregg Jaden. Jadi langsung dikirim dari speaker hari ini dan ditandatangani oleh dia, dan mendapatkan 2 voucher pulsa dari Dinda Baby Shop Plus dari Semarang. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have a nice weekend.
Terima
And see you next
kasih.
week. Terima kasih semuanya.
Thank
Terima
you.
kasih semuanya.
Silahkan meninggalkan
everyone. Good to
ruangan.
see
you.
Jangan
Thank
lupa
you.
untuk
Thank
mengisi
you.
G-form.
Thank you, Greg.
Terima kasih.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Greg.
guys. Thanks for sharing.
Bye.
Terima kasih semuanya.
Terima kasih.